Have you ever wondered what it's like to see gold sleeping? Well, now you can see a goldfish just sleeping in a pond. They're not moving much at all. They're just kind of sitting in place, gathered all in like a cloud of fish. What's interesting about this sight, when you see the goldfish sleeping, makes you realize that even fish sleep. It so belies the myth that they don't. And why do I mention goldfish sleeping? Well, because there's a lot of fictitious nonsense in the world about things like that in popular cultures with mythos that people take seriously for whatever reason, saying nonsense like goldfish don't sleep or fish don't sleep, they're always moving. Well, as you can see, they're not always moving very much or at all, and yet they are alive. And yet people persist in telling these myths. For what reason? What reason could people have to persist in telling known fibs? Part of it is laziness, simplicity, sticking to what you know, even if you know it's wrong. An unwillingness to change. They don't know any better. They're afraid of change. They're unable to change. Any of these are possibilities, and all of them are part of the real reason. And altogether, it is the real reason. Now, when you're sending messaging to people, when you're marketing information to people, you have to take this into account. And bear in mind that people will definitely ignore facts, even if it's presented to them in front of their face. They will just outright ignore it. We see that in all walks of life, from culture, of the arts, or music, or entertainment. You have suspensions of disbelief. In politics, you have it with personalities, characters, traits, actions. People don't want to believe something, they just simply won't. They'd rather mindlessly follow a cult leader than actually look at the facts. They'd rather be persuaded by gloss than by substance. You see that in cooking, you see that in everything, every academia, you see that in every walk of life. Now, you see that in some more than others. You see it in religion, you see it in trades, you see it in industry, it doesn't matter what. It's everywhere. And the big reason comes down to people find it harder to be unconvinced that they've been lied to or scammed or fooled than actually to be lied to and scammed and fooled. And it is, in fact, that way. Because it is, in fact, easier to lie to, fool, or scam good people than it is to convince them that they have been lied to or fooled or scammed. Part of that is because they don't want to accept that they made a mistake, that they were wrong, that they lost, that they committed a bad action. Rather find some excuse to justify whatever horrible thing has happened to them as a result of their inability or unwillingness, or both, to not be lied to, fooled, or scammed, and believe that it's the real deal. That is why we consistently see, without stop, in fact with an increase that is measured proportionally to the increase of population over time, the number of lies, fooleries, and scams. It's really not that complicated. Right? The math adds up very nicely on that. The more people there are, the more lies there are. The more fooling there is, and the more scams there are. So, as the old chief said, put that in your pipe and smoke it. Right? What we have here, some finely mowed grass, finely mowed, weed whacked weeds, cut down. Anybody want to guess why they don't weed whack beyond the point where they did there? Anybody want to guess? Anybody want to guess? It's because the rest of that stuff is on an incline. And as such, the weed whacker workers will only stand here on the relatively flat part and whack weeds down as far as their weed whackers will reach, so that they don't have to stand on these steep inclines and possibly fall into the ravine or otherwise hurt themselves, twist their ankles, God knows what. So, to be safe, they only whack weeds from where they can stand here. I know, it may not seem interesting to you. The reason I tell you that is because it demonstrates that even people who have a wonderful and important and relatively simple task to do, like standing on some earth and whacking some weeds with a weed whacker, even they have to give some foresight into what is factual and what is not. They have to think, oh, I'm standing on the side of this little hill, I better not stand too steep, or I'll fall with all this equipment on my back and I could severely hurt myself. Never mind break the equipment and be covered in weeds and thorns and mud and God knows what else. So what they do instead is they let that bottom part grow, which also is a habitat for wildlife, frogs and crickets and who knows what else, little fish. Sometimes there's ducks. And then once a year, about sometime in the spring basically, a tractor comes here. And it has if you've seen these videos, you know, because you might have seen it happen. There's like a tractor that pulls behind it, a kind of lawn cutting instrument that is able to go up and down hills with great slopes. So it is able to chop down all the grass, even these tall grasses that are growing on the very steep slopes. Now, again, why is a guy who talks about marketing and trading and meandering thoughts for the purpose of finding ways to message better, talking about mowing lawns on the side of a hill? Well, life is not just about one thing, right? We are not single-minded beings. People mention to me, friends will see me shoot a video or something, and they'll look at it and they'll say, your videos are so random. Why don't you focus on one thing? That's what people like on Facebook or on YouTube or on whatever, Twitter, wherever you share videos. To that I say, I am not one thing. We are all well-rounded beings. We are all a bit of everything. It's just a matter of what you focus on that will often create a perception in people's opinions about what you are and who you are and what you do. And it's kind of bollocks. Like, yes, you can specialize in things and be a great something or other, but I bet you're still good at other things. Well, I bet there's still other things you like to do, even if you're not good at them. Right? We're not all only one thing. When people say, oh, I can't paint. Nonsense. Pick up a paintbrush, drag it across a piece of paper, boom, you're a painter. Take a pencil, scribble anything, a doodle, draw a circle. It doesn't have to be perfect. Boom, you're an artist. Now, of course, the more you practice, the better you get. But to say that people are only this or only that is one of the biggest lies in society, and it is used to control practically everyone. And it is most often a thing that is indoctrinated onto people when they're at work, in their first job. Sometimes it happens before. It could happen during an internship. It could happen during school. Right? It could happen. In some cases we know it does, but it usually happens when people start working in their first job. And they are told, here, go do this. They do that for a day. They do that for a few days. They do that for a week. Week turns into a month. Month turns into a year. After which they're referred to as the specialist in that thing. Well, the fact is, that's just simply not how life is. People are pigeonholed by the society in order for the society to be able to contain them, because it makes it easier to manage many people when you pigeonhole them. It doesn't make it better for society. In fact, it makes it harder and worse. It makes it easier in the short term for an incompetent society that refuses to implement better ways, even though they know they exist. Just like people who are willingly lied to or fooled or scammed. There's no difference between people and society, because people are society. It's just that society is a group of people and people are individuals. That's the only difference. So that is why it should come as no surprise that people are lied to, fooled, and scammed more and more and more as population grows more and more and more and more. Because very simply, societies get bigger. There are more people to manage. There are more people to lie to fool, and to scam. And that's the honest truth. So don't let yourself be pigeonholed, is my message. Don't go for it. Don't allow it. Be not a person that someone else tells you who you are, what you're good at, what you're not good at. Because it's absolute balderdash. You could wake up one day when you're in your mid-50s or even older, and decide, you know what, I want to do this today, and completely change your life. It happens all the time. Don't ever stop dreaming. Ever. As long as you're alive, keep that fire alive. Dream and do. Commit yourself to doing different things. Variety is the spice of life. You want to be expert at something? You have to do different things to get a perspective on what it is that you do. You're going to be the world's best surgeon in cardiovascular surgery? Well, you need to do other things. Maybe you need to go do some underwater basket weaving, or read some French 17th century literature, or study ancient Sumerian art, whatever it might be, to get an outside perspective and not just be a one-trick pony that will get burned out very quickly. So enjoy life to the fullest. Make the most of it if you can, or that you can every day. Be your best. Happy days.